Well, small, medium enterprises have for years been placed at the centre of government's plans for economic growth in this country, but with the forecasts coming from international organisations and indeed government itself, one has to wonder if there's any light at the end of the tunnel for SMEs themselves. Well, let's discuss this now and bring in a guest who's going to talk more about SMEs and what they are likely to face in 2020. This South Africa's struggling economy continues to affect that sector, as I was saying to you. In studio with me is CEO of Spartan SME Funding, Kumaran Padayachee. Kumaran, a very good evening to you. Thank you for coming in. So, as I was saying there, the big worry of many of these businesses is whether there's any hope for them in 2020, given these gloomy forecasts. Is there hope?
It depends on your perspective. If you're overly optimistic, you will tend to be disappointed. If you're overly negative, you're going to live in anxiety. We know that the economy is forecast to grow between 0.9% and 0.5%, and that's not fantastic for anyone. But what I'm saying is that for SMEs, whilst the macroeconomy is important, it's not as important. Because let's say, for example, an SME, a particular business, is doing in its sector 0.0001% market share. If it does a few things right, it can double its business. It'll still be 0.00 decimal points, right? And all it has to do is do a couple of things right. And so they should not be disempowered by all this kind of bad news. We know it's going to be depressing, but we should double down and fix up the business model as well as protect against the downsides. And
just on the business model, I know one of the things you suggested is that SMEs not focus on just one particular sector. Is the best thing for them to do then to, I don't know, seek involvement in as many spaces as possible?
Yes, some businesses may not have that luxury. If it's a construction business, it's only going to be in the construction sectors. But some businesses can diversify into another sector, as well as not be overexposed to certain big clients. Because what we've seen in the last few years is larger corporates that are folded, right? And when that elephant falls, it takes out a whole lot of other businesses with it. So the idea is not being overexposed to one particular sector if possible, and with too fewer larger clients. That's going to be a day.
I want to talk about the positives then, Kumaran. Are there any sweet spots currently for SMEs, any particular industries where you could say this is where the greatest hope for survival and economic growth are for these sort of businesses?
Now, I'll give you a paradoxical comment. SMEs that are particularly involved in their particular sector, they shouldn't look to innovate out of that, to diversify out of the sector. Fine, that's one thing, but they should rather look for the opportunities that are coming from other failures. Unfortunately, that's what can happen, and as well as to protect themselves. One particular sector, that I'm excited about, it's struggling at the moment a lot, is tourism. It's a struggling sector, and I feel that there are a lot of factors that can be done to uplift it, and the tourism sector is slightly immune to whatever happens at a macro level. It can also have the ability to offtake a large amount of unskilled labour, and so that can add a lot of jobs.
So in terms of, it is the beginning of the year, you've got people who are wanting to start new ventures. When you look at where the economy is now and the various growth projections that we've had, would you say that this time, business-wise, is the best time to start a new venture?
There's no right and wrong time to start a business. In my mind, I'd rather start it at the bottom. I feel we at a low point, and so maybe things can only get better from there.
But for those of us who've been in employment, it's quite a frightening prospect, so you want to weigh all your options.
I would feel that however long if you're thinking about business, you should rather do your calculations properly.
Okay.
Because being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. We shouldn't over-glorify this thing, and so some people may say, well, it's going to take me 6 months to get it right. It's probably going to take you 18 or 24. If you're married and you haven't had that conversation with your spouse, your partner, you haven't decided that I'm prepared to sell or bond this house, then don't get involved in business, because you have to double down and take high risk in this economy. And so that's what it requires.
So no spouse, no business for me. I suppose I'll be back here tomorrow night. Kumaran Padayachee, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.